This is the Action Movie Guys podcast, bringing you action movie reviews from across the decades, plus box office numbers and insight like never before. And now, your hosts of the Action Movie Guys podcast, Alex and Nate.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode number 264 of the Action Movie Guys podcast. I'm your host, Nate. This is my co-host,
Alex Figueroa.
And on this episode, we are continuing on with our Universal Monster Movie Month, Monsters in Action. That's what we're going to call it. Monsters in Action. That's what we're going to call it, MIA. So yes, last week, we introduced with Van Helsing, and that had many monsters. And this week, we're going to a one monster. Well, one and a half monsters. One and a half monsters. And this is going to be 2017's The Mummy, starring Tom Cruise, Russell Crowe, and that hot chick. Oh, Annabelle Wallis. That's right. We don't call people hot chicks. We know their names. Annabelle Wallis. And of course, directed by Alex Kurtzman, I believe, was the director on this movie.
Yeah.
He's a goober. So anyway, before we go into the review and we give you our take on this film, let's hear some Rotten Tomato scores. What do you think we got here? Pretty bad. Let me just tell you that. Spoiler alert. 15% critic score. 15%. And of course, a 35% audience. So apparently, critics didn't like it. Audiences liked it slightly more, but not a very popular movie. Critically, what do you think?
Okay, critically, I can't wait to dive into this movie because it's weird, right? Because when you look at it, I think what hurt this movie was the title, The Mummy. Because the minute you say The Mummy, everyone started thinking, oh my God, it's a sequel to the Brendan Fraser and the Brendan Fraser. And it's like, people, this was Universal Monster before there was even Brendan Fraser. Like that was a remake of a damn remake. So it's like, so for me, when it comes to the critics and the audience, I kind of knew they were going to be nitpicking. Once you see this type of version of the Mummy, you kind of knew the critics were going to be tearing this damn thing apart. Then when it comes to the audience, my thinking is, I think they were thinking a Brendan Fraser sequel or a remake of that version.
Okay.
The problem is the tonally, the way this movie was shot, kind of takes away the whole that Mummy feeling because it felt more of an action movie than an adventure movie. But we'll talk about that throughout our stuff. But were you surprised by this?
I'm surprised going back. I saw this at the theater when it came out in 2017. I reviewed it on my former podcast. And I remember thinking, I haven't watched it since then. So this is 6 years ago that I watched this movie and I'm rewatching it now. But I remember thinking it was a little harsh. I know that they had set up this whole dark universe thing where it was going to be like Javier Bardem and Russell Crowe, Tom Cruise, Johnny Depp was going to play the Invisible Man.
Which I still think he should because he would be a good.
He would be good. I liked all the casting. Angelina Jolie was going to play Bride of Frankenstein. I was like, oh, baby, sign me up for all of these movies. I think Bardem was playing Frankenstein or the Wolfman. One of them. I don't know. But I know
if he's Wolfman, that would be pretty good.
They had it. And they took cast photos all together. And I think they put the cart before the horse. And I think that caused a lot of backlash when the movie actually opened. That's just my opinion. It's a guess. I think it hurt it, though. Them say, oh, here we go. They want to cash in like MCU and make a whole connected universe. And I think it put a bad taste right off the bat. Where if they just released the movie and then over time sprinkled those things in, maybe it wouldn't have done as bad. But either way, we're going to discuss if we think we agree with the critics or the audience or neither. So Alex, you get to go first. When I'm the host, you get to talk about our lead character. Of course, whenever Tom Cruise is a movie, he is Tom Cruise to me. But in this movie, he's named like Nick or something like that.
Nick Morton.
Nick Morton, baby.
Yeah.
Nick Morton, Tom Cruise, take it away.
I liked him in this movie. I thought he was good. Look, there's two ways you could go about this. Tom Cruise, we all know him as Ethan Hunt, right? For the past 20 years, he's been Ethan Hunt. That's all he's been playing is Ethan Hunt. I mean, Tom Cruise, of course, Maverick also, because he came back with him. But other than that, he's been in freaking Mission Impossible. So when you see him do another action movie, you're thinking of Ethan Hunt. And this movie, I think that's pretty much what happened with this movie. You're seeing Ethan Hunt in this movie. Now, was he bad casting? Yes, he was a bad cast. But I can't take away his acting ability because honestly, he was really good in the role. It's just, it was a bad... I think if it wasn't called a mummy and it was like another adventure story, I think people would have liked the movie. You know what I mean? Like, I personally think because it was the Mummy and it was attached to this big property from Universal Monsters, Tom Cruise got bad rap on this. They were, oh, this is Ethan Hunt. He's doing all the Mission Impossible stuff. He blah, 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 blah. But if you really look at it and you take away all that stuff, he played an adventurer. Yeah. Like a Nathan Drake type character. He was sarcastic. He was funny. He did his own stunts. You could tell he did his own stunts. I thought he played it really well. Now, when he turned into the Mummy at the end, I thought he was pretty cool as the Mummy. I was like, you know what? I liked it. Did it look corny as shit? Yeah, it did look corny. But I enjoyed it. I was like, you know what? I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, the storyline is a different thing. We'll talk about that down the line. But in terms of him, the character, I like Nick Morton. He was a thief. He was with the good guy. He's a thief, just like every adventurer. Yeah. And then he becomes basically he sacrificed himself for the world. He couldn't just turn bad and destroy the world. No, he didn't. He sacrificed. He loved the girl. He turned into the Mummy. Now he's the good Mummy. And now he has to get away from everyone. But look, honestly, at the end of everything, was Tom Cruise casted wrong? Yes. And I give him a 3. I thought he was good for the role. Wow. I give him a 3.
I agree. I agree with you. I have the same exact score. I give him a 3 too. I agree with almost pretty much everything you said. I think he was miscast. They needed someone younger, personally. Yeah. And I loved. I love Tom Cruise. I love him. I love almost all the movies he does. He's not too old for every movie, but I think they should have went younger for this movie, to be honest. Yeah. Maybe someone like in their 30s, maybe 40 tops. You know what I mean? He looked great. You know, he's physically fit, obviously, you know, but he just felt a little, especially when he's working with Jake Johnson and Annabelle Wallace, and like they seem significantly younger than him, you know what I mean? And he's like hanging out with them, like, I don't know how I feel about that. So I agree with you 100%. Miscast, but hey, look, he's here. I do think the performance I didn't have a problem with the performance. I think Tom Cruise is a fine actor. I think he's a movie star. That's what we got to remember here. Yeah. He is a movie star type actor. And I thought he was fine in the role, but I agree with everything you said. I think the decision to, the one sentence you said that sums up my thoughts is he becomes the good Mummy. And I don't like that. Now that has to do with storyline and we'll get into that more, but because it relates to the character, I think it was a weird choice personally. So yeah, you don't get a ton of backstory. You know, he's an adventurer. You know, he's kind of, you know, he'll do what he got to do to get over. He sleeps with the girl just to steal the map pretty much. You know, he's a little bit slimy. That was funny. Yeah, he's a little bit slimy, but at the end of the day, he's not like a horrible person. So he's fine. I think it's an okay character. I gave him a 3. You gave him a 3. Okay, villain. Now this is Princess. I always called her Omelette. It's Amunet with an N, not omelet.
Amunet.
Yeah. We'll call her Omelette. What did you think of Princess Omelette?
I liked her. I thought, you know what? You could have went 2 ways with this movie. You could have went the Emotep route, where there's a guy coming back and destroying the world. And I would say, you know what? Emotep. But they did that already. We're not going to bring back Emotep on this one. True. So they switched it up. They brought a female, right? But I liked it. I thought she needed more, though. There was something about her that I felt like was lackluster. I felt like she got her powers mad quick. She was just kissing everybody and sucking their souls. And I was just like, all right. But those scenes were too dark. So I couldn't see much of the sucking. So...
There's your clip.
There goes my clip right
the
there.
scenes were too dark, and I couldn't see much of the sucking. There you go.
Yeah, but the thing is like, I thought she was really good though. Like when they show her, I wanted her to be more menacing in the role. Like when they were in the streets and she does the whole mummy thing with the dust and the sandstorm. And I was just like, I wanted to see more like people getting ripped to shreds with the sandstorm. Because when you hit people with sand, right, it hurts. Like it hurts. Yeah. And you could really cut someone with sand if you put that PCI really high. So, and I'm like, man, if you
100 miles an hour at you, it doesn't feel good.
Yeah. So I'm like, in that scene when she blows to try to get him, she should have tried to they should have did some cool visuals of people getting like straight up like burning looks and stuff. But anyway, I liked her. Again, at the end of the day, did she look like the typical mummy? No, she looked like a modern version with tattoos all over her, which kind of to me threw me off. I'm very vintage type of guy when it comes to like you remaking old school monster movies. Yeah. I wouldn't mind it. Like, when they showed her in the beginning and they tied her up in the they mummified her.
Yeah.
And she came back like that with the burnt on her.
Yeah.
Like her skin was the damn like the
wrappings?
the wrappings.
Yeah.
If that was her skin, I would have been like, that's it. Okay, you got me sold. Like, and her face looked like the wrapping also, but like burnt in, and you're just like, oh. And then she could use that illusion of her looking mad sexy, but then when it comes back, you're like, ah! You're just
Right.
like,
Yeah.
she looks horrible. So like something like that, I would have been attached to it. I just want to touch this a little bit quick before you go. I gave her, by the way, a 3 also. I thought she was good. Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. I don't know where you want to put him in.
Storyline. It's the same
Okay.
for storyline.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So then, okay, you go. Go ahead.
Okay. So Sophia Boutella, that's the actress. Beautiful.
She's cute too.
Yeah, she's very
Yeah.
beautiful. She was in She was awesome in Kingsman, by the way. She had like them sword legs. Sick.
And Atomic Blonde, wasn't
Atomic
she?
Blonde, yep.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
the thing is, she is a former dancer, so her physical movements are great in this movie. I think she was a good casting. If you're gonna go like woman mummy, you know, she has the complexion, she has the look. She doesn't have to talk too much. You know what I mean? She's a villain.
No.
I think the casting was great. I don't have a problem with it. I agree with you again. Like, we're on the same page here. The problem for me, like comparing to Imhotep, for example. Imhotep, if you look at him as a character, he's slightly more tragic, right? He was bad, but he was in love with a woman and he wanted to, you know, be with this woman. He wasn't supposed to, but he wanted to be. And that kind of led him down the path of where he goes. He gets cursed. He's the mummy, blah, blah, blah. This chick is just bad always. There's nothing romantic to her. There's nothing where you're like, oh, you know, I feel for her, even if it's a little. Imhotep, I did. Her, I do not. Because she's going to be the queen. Her dad sees a hot chick, has a baby, and now she got a brother. She freaking murders a baby, kills her dad, and then she doesn't love that guy. She's just going to kill him to put this god of the dead inside of him. And that's it. So there's not a lot to her as far as her motivation other than she just wants to dominate the world, right? And so I think that hurts her and it makes her less of a character. I feel like in this movie, she's more of a force, if that makes sense. She's more of a force than a character, you know? And she has powers. She could do all this evil stuff. She wants to kill people, take over, blah, blah, blah. She's a force of nature, but she's not necessarily a great character. As a force of nature, I thought she was cool. I gave her a 3 as well. We're on the same page again. I too gave her a 3. Okay, action.
When it comes to, okay, because I was torn with this one. Because I know where a lot of people will go with this, like, oh, this has horrible action. I don't think so. I think this has some pretty decent action in this film. Mm-hmm. The plane scene alone was awesome. I don't care what anyone said. That plane scene looked really well done.
Yeah.
Now, there's not much action at all. I mean, you got the shooting in the beginning when him and Tom Cruise are running through Afghanistan or Iraq or whatever the hell it was.
Iraq. Yeah.
And then they blew up to find her. That's pretty much the action you're getting. Then the fight at the end between him and her.
Yeah.
That is all. Those are the 3 big set pieces if you want to talk about action. I gave it a 3 for good. Because you know what? I was really into the movie. I don't care. Them running through Iraq was actually really fun because they were bickering at each other like, you know, like adventure movies do between like sidekicks. I liked it. I thought that was fun. The airplane scene, I thought that was really well shot. And then at the end of the movie, when he gets his powers, I thought that was pretty cool too. So I was like, you know what? I don't think it was great, and I think it could have been way better. And then her turning into sand was another big set piece, and I liked it. Yeah. I thought it was good. And then the zombie dudes, when they had them, I thought, look, all of us, I think that it was not as much great scenes and perfect scenes, but I thought it had some good popcorn flick scenes that you're going, you know what? This is a decent movie. I thought, a decent action scene for this type of movie. I thought it could have been way better. But it is what we saw from the final product. I gave it a 3. I thought it was good.
So once again, we're on the same page, honestly. I gave it a 3 as well. It's one of those ones where it's like you mentioned, it could have been better, but it could have been worse. It could have been worse. Here's my issue with it. You touched on it in one of the other scenes. It's way too dark at a lot of parts that I couldn't see. And I watched this in 4K with the lights off, like in an optimal way to see this. And it's way too dark. I don't know if they were trying to save some money on the effects because obviously a lot of the dark scenes involve like the mummy creatures and stuff like that. But yeah, too dark at a lot of parts. I thought the airplane scene was a standout. I agree. I thought that was cool. I like the Iraq scene in the beginning where they have the guns, like the machine guns, and they're running and jumping and shooting. And it was a good chase scene. I like the sand part, but again, it was like, this feels like it's just the homage to the Brendan Fraser one, because her face is in it and everything. And that one's more memorable to me. So it was okay. And then he has the fight too with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde with Russell Crowe, where they're fighting in that room. It was okay. So I agree with you. I think that there's not a ton of action, but there's a good amount. This is an action movie for sure. There's enough to keep you interested, but it's not extremely well shot. This director is not like an super experienced director or a great action director or anything like that. It's fine. I gave it a 3. I've seen much worse and I've seen way better. Okay, now this is what I'm interested in. This is the category I was like, I really want to get your opinion on, and this is going to be the storyline.
Okay. Oh, man. How can I break it? Okay. The first 30 minutes hooked me in. I was into the movie. When I tell you I was into it, you can ask my wife. I was all up in it. Then it got boring. It got really boring. And it's a shame because I really like this movie. Like, I started to like the movie. Like, even on the rewatch, I see, man, I was like, what is people talking about? And then towards the ending, it just got dumb. I gave it a 2. I was going to go with a 3. The reason why I went with a 2, because I felt like it had the same tropes as every other remix of the films. Mm-hmm. And I felt like if you're going to start a dark universe, should not been the first movie to do it with. And I think, and I mean, we could all be honest here with each other. The only reason why is because Tom Cruise is the biggest actor, and they thought he was going to bring in ticket sales. Yeah. Which he did. The movie did great, box office wise.
Yeah.
So I'll pull it up here quick. $125 million budget. Not bad. That's a typical action movie budget.
Yeah.
Worldwide, $409 million. They made the money back.
They didn't lose money.
Yeah. So pretty much you could have catapulted it with this. I just think between the domestic numbers of this is where it got bad. It was only $80 million. That's garbage. Yeah. That's where they were. No. That's not going to work here. Yeah. So when you look at it in terms of the storyline, they had some great elements, but then it just falls apart. And one of them was Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. And I wanted to get into this because one character that I like a lot, and I wish to God that they could have did a good version of him, even modern. Like, you could do so much with that type of character, especially in a horror way, too. But Russell Crowe, I think Russell Crowe is a hell of an actor. He was a great choice for Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde.
Yeah.
I just hated the way he played Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. It felt very League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
And you never want to feel League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
You don't want to feel like that. No, you don't. And I thought, man, with an actor like this, so complex, that he could give you a performance of two dudes in one body. Him embodiment of the scientist, and then him raging out as my man Jekyll before he turns into whatever CGI or practical, whatever the hell you want to go with. Mm-hmm. But they didn't. They had that one moment when he's talking. I was like, I didn't like it. And I just felt like when it came to Jekyll, and then it happened in the last movie we did that had Jekyll and Hyde also.
Yeah, Van Helsing.
Van Helsing. They make this dude a buffoon. He's a brilliant scientist that accidentally shoots himself with these serums and then becomes, he can't get his personality, can't get rid of the bad side.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you guys can never nail this, especially even in this type of movie. Anyway, you got Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, who's a head of a freaking army for some damn reason.
Organization.
Yeah. And then to have the stupid, and this is where I gave it a 2. At the end of the movie, when she goes, but he's still a good guy, and he goes, light side, dark side. You really don't know which side he is in. And I'm like, dude, you're fucking good and bad too. Like, how said that you're giving speeches about good and bad if your ass got to shoot yourself with serum just so the bad guy don't come out. So I had to deduct it because of that. Yeah. Because I'm like, how can a character that has that trait that once he goes bad, the good side is no longer there. His mind is kind of done.
Yeah.
But another dude that has the same problem, like all of a sudden it's like, I don't know, we're going to hunt him down. Like, we're going to start hunting him down when I'm like, my man Jekyll has the same problem as the other guy. So, like, that got me mad. But, like, all in all, I think the first 30 to 40 minutes, I thought it was really engaging. It was good. Then it just fell apart with the love scene. She broke out. And then Jekyll. It was just so much going on towards the end. And I was just like, And I was just like, I tapped out. I was like, okay, I'm done. So I gave it a 2 for decent story.
I swear, it's like you looked at my notes before we started talking. One note that I had written was the longer the movie went on, the less I liked it.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
I was okay at the
Yes.
beginning. Yeah, you're right. I was into it. Okay, we start with some action. Cool design. I wish they went to Egypt, but they never go to eat there in Iraq, and then London, which is weird, but whatever.
Yeah.
Different, okay. But as it kept going, you're right. I was just like, I became less and less interested as the runtime went on. And it's not crazy long. It's only an hour and 50 minutes. But yeah, it loses steam and then it never recovers. It never recovers. It just keeps getting worse. To touch on a couple of your points, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, agree with the casting, love Russell Crowe, no problem with it. All I can imagine is like there's a great actual horror movie to make with that character and they just will never do it. I'm convinced at this point. I don't think they'll do it. And it needs to be set in the old time. Like it can't be, it can't be modern, if that makes sense. Like give me an old creepy house scientist guy making a
Jack the Ripper era.
Yeah,
Like,
that's what it needs. It needs, but it's never going to happen. So I agree with you there. I like the casting, don't like the execution. The story is just, it's just not good. It's just not good. It's it's very basic. Like they made the most basic mummy movie possible, and I hate, this is what I was saving this for. The Tom Cruise thing with him turning into the getting the mummy powers was one of the worst decisions. I get why they did it. They were planning on building this universe, this cinematic universe where they're going to cross over. And yeah, you probably rather have Tom Cruise as your mummy character with powers and stuff than the girl. But really, if you're going to make a dark universe, make the villains the villains. The mummy, she should have been the one to appear as the mummy, blah, blah, blah. Not him. He's a regular modern guy who got possessed by the spirit of an ancient god and then got powers. And I wasn't crazy about it. I agree with everything you said. I really do. I gave it a 2 as well. I think it hurts the movie so bad that even though the other element, we were on 3 on everything. So there's nothing exceptional. And then when your script is bad, it even brings those things down. Where it's like, okay, there's cool guns, but like I also have to sit through all this bull crap to see it. You know what I mean? Story-wise. So I didn't give it a 1 because I don't think it's like
it was
the worst,
horrible.
but it's bad. It's not good.
And the crazy thing is like even when you said it, like he got powers, he still looked the same.
Yeah,
right. He turned into sand, which I was like,
eyes.
Right. What? How cool it was been, right? Think about it right here, right? He does the same thing, right? He slides, he stabs himself. Okay, right? All of a sudden, he gets up mad fast, right? Because supposedly, whatever, he gets possessed. He gets up, and all of a sudden, the sand starts ripping him to shreds, and then he gets the wrapping, and he doesn't turn back into Tom Cruise. He's now a mummy. Like, he's pretty much, he gets mummified, and he got like, think of it like Darkman. Remember how creepy he looked?
And they kind of
looked like Darkman.
Remember, he has like a bandana, and he doesn't take it off.
Over his face, because it's all ripped. You could have did a scene like that. Yeah. That he just basically sacrificed himself for the girl, and he sacrificed for the world. But you see the sacrifice. He basically gave up his look, and you see him stab. All of a sudden, the sand is just tearing my man up, and she's scared because she knows how powerful this guy's about to become. And that's it. Yeah. And now he's scared, and then he sees his reflection on the fucking water, and he's like, "Get away!" Whatever. I would have preferred that type of ending than what we got with him and he going, "It's just another adventure guy."
Yeah, where's your sense of adventure? That's what he said. Yeah.
It was just such, like, that was a wasted opportunity. Because I'll tell you, if you would have ended it the way I told you, I think the crowd would have been on board for the universe. Yeah. Because you would have been like, oh, damn, I want to see more how this dude is going to look towards that whole thing. But we didn't get it that way. But I agree with you too on that.
I agree. Yep. We're on the same page in regards to that. Okay, so now the last category, of course, overall, what did you think on the whole? Did that story affect it enough to drop your score? Let us know.
No, I liked it. At the end of everything, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun attempt at an adventure. I think that's the best way to say it. I think it was a fun attempt at an adventure. I gave it a 3 for good. I thought I had fun with it. I thought it was good for what it was. I mean, yeah, I can have my nitpicks with Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde at the end of the movie and all that. But at the end of it, it was a good, solid waste of film movie. Like, it was just... And, the problem is Alex Kurtzman.
Yes.
Right? If you guys don't know who he is, Alex Kurtzman is known for Star Trek. He does all the Star Treks. He's a
JJ
producer with Star Trek.
too. They work together.
Yeah, so he's all about Star Trek. So if he would have did a Star Trek movie, it would have been a banging movie because he knows that whole universe. Again, I don't understand with studios hiring people that do not know about their damn properties. Same thing with comic books, same thing with whatever. Hire people that knows this thing. I would have hired a horror director that knows, because horror directors will talk about, I was influenced by the Frankenstein from 1940, or I was influenced by the Hammer films of, Christopher Lee's, Hammer direct, Dracula's. Yeah. That's what I would have done. If I was a studio, I'd be like, get me someone that actually films and likes these things. Not someone that does Star Trek. Because you could clearly see he did not know where he wanted to go with this type of movie. So, honestly, look, at the end of everything, I gave it a 3. Because I did enjoy it. I did like it. It's kind of sad that we didn't get this Dark Universe because I was actually kind of looking forward to it. Yeah. But one thing you did say that I agree with you, this whole Dark Universe should have been set in the old time. And I think it would have been so much better in a nutshell. Because then you could have did so much in terms of that universe with Jack Griffin, which is the Invisible Man. And then you could have did so much in that whole parallel universe there. But anyway, with that said, I gave it a 3. I enjoyed it, so I gave it a good.
Yeah, I agree with all the movies should have been set in old times. So I couldn't, you know what? I thought I had a score in mind, and then when I was at the end of the movie, I was like, you know what? I don't feel like it's a 3, but I don't feel like it's a 2. So I had to bust out the 0.5. I gave it a 2.5. I gave it a 2.5. I don't think it's all the way bad for a 2, but I don't think it's a 3. I don't. It's just somewhere in the middle of that. So I had to bust. I use 0.5s. I haven't had to in a while, but I had to bust it out for this movie. It just is right in the middle. It is right in the middle. I'm thinking 5 out of 10 in my head, and that's a 2.5. I think the casting was fine. Well, Cruise was not the best casting choice, but he was fine in the movie. The rest of the casting, cool. I like the girl. I like Russell Crowe. Even Jake Johnson. I like Jake Johnson. He's funny. He's on New Girl. He does the voice of Peter Parker in Spider-Verse. He's a fine actor. I don't have a problem. Does he fit this role? No, he doesn't, because he's more of a funny guy. But he's whatever. I forgot to mention, I hated that element. The whole Werewolf in London thing where he can talk to the dead friend and he can give him advice and stuff. Hated it. A terrible idea. Where he keeps seeing him in the mirrors and stuff. And he's like, we got to go this way. We got to go this way. He's just there so the audience can know where we're going to go next. And I didn't like that. But anyway, I think it was a swing, and it was a swing and a miss, but it was a good cut. It really swung for the fences. They just hit to the warning track. So I think the Dark Universe, I was so hyped for it because if you know me, I love the classic monster movies. I love them. That's why we're doing this month, because those movies are the old ones I love. And then I remember the cast came out and I was like, oh my gosh, I love all of those casting choices, all of them. And it just sort of fell flat and they canceled it. And so, probably better off just not doing it in that format. I'm okay with them remaking these movies, but don't do it that way. Something like, before we wrap up, I like the Benicio del Toro Wolfman remake. I like that movie. And it's still set in the old Wolfman. It's not the best, but Joe Johnston's a solid director. Anthony Hopkins is in there. Emily Blunt. I thought that was a good modern retelling of that old story. And it was rated R, which was cool. It was bloody. He was ripping people up. I'd rather something like that with these characters than this. You know what I mean? Like a straight action movie, pretty much.
I agree with you on that. You could have done that type of movie with the Mummy. Action with the Mummy. I just think they should have.
He fits in that kind of movie.
Yeah, he does. I just felt like, let's look at it this way, right? They did The Invisible Man, Blumhouse, and I hated it.
And that was a remake, yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't like the way they did. They try to do the whole twist with that, and it was a suit, which I was just like, see, that takes away the fun part about The Invisible Man. Where I remember talking to someone, and they were like, "What do you want? You wanted him to drink a potion?" Well, fuck yeah, because that's exactly what happened in the original. He kept injecting himself with with the damn flower, and he turned transparent. I was like, that's the whole point of The Invisible Man. I was like, anyone could grab a suit.
Yeah.
I was like, how fun is that? A suit. I like the suit.
I loved that movie because I think the execution was great in a lot of scenes. I thought the direction was great, but I could see that, and that's the problem with modernizing things. When you make something modern, but those audiences don't react as well to magic potions and chemistry, someone sitting with a chemistry set and is bubbling, and like it doesn't necessarily work in 2021 or whatever that came out. But if you set it in freaking 1854, you're not gonna have a suit with cameras and technology. So yeah. I agree with you. Yeah, I could see why you wouldn't like the direction. I like that movie, but it's not the classic Invisible Man. And that's the problem with modernizing everything.
Exactly. But like even with that, right? Because people go, oh yeah, but you can't do a potion. But you got to give the guy why he needs the potion. Yeah. You could do something where that character has a deadly disease or something, and he's a scientist. He's trying to get rid of the disease.
Yeah. He
stumbles upon this plant. He stabs himself with the plant multiple times. He feels better. He feels stronger. The more he takes it, he starts to turn transparent. Yeah. Boom. You go, oh shit, this dude is invisible. You know what it is? I guess people like the newer version, like you said, because it's the newer and the way they shot it. It looked great. Like I said, I'm not taking away from the movie. For me, it's just like I just like old school stuff. Like for me, if it's a damn potion, leave it with the potion. Give us a modern take of it. But like you said, set in the 1800s. Those timepieces look such amazing when you film them now.
Yeah.
They look so great. Look at Titanic. It was set in 1912 in the movie. And it looked fantastic on 4K. Yeah. Right? So, like, I mean, I don't know. Jack the Ripper is another one. Do a great Jack the Ripper movie. Horror.
I agree. I'm not going to argue with you because I agree. I think they all should have been set in the old time. So what's your total score?
14 out of 25.
I have a 13 and a half. So we're pretty close. Yeah, you had the half point more for overall. So 14 for you, 13 and a half. We'll call it a missed opportunity, a watchable crap if there ever was one. Because it's not good. I can't say this movie's like really good, but is it watchable? I guess. It's like The Mummy 2. The Brendan Fraser Mummy 2. Watchable. That was our first ever watchable crap that got the title. So yeah, I would lump it in that group. Anyway, next week, we are starting a brand new franchise. We're going sailing on the high seas with the Pirates of the Caribbean, a Johnny Depp film. We haven't done much Johnny Depp action here at the Action Movie Guys podcast. No. So we're going to be doing that. And then this is funny because this was actually the movie that Universal put out that was going to be a launching off point to a new franchise. And then they canceled it and said, no, The Mummy is the first one. But this was the actual first one, truth be told. And we're going with a little Dracula Untold. So Luke Evans as Dracula, that was, you'll see the movie, Alex, and make sure when you watch, I think there's an end credit scene, so watch the credits. Because that was supposed to launch the Universal universe, but then they tried to retcon it and say it was The Mummy. So watch that movie and watch that with that in mind, and then we'll talk about it when we review it next week.
Okay, I mean, I'm looking forward to. I remember watching this once, and I kind of enjoyed it for what it was. Again, it's been ages. This is like 2014. I looked up.
Yeah, 2014. This movie was my #1 most viewed on my old Netflix movie channel, YouTube channel. This was my most watched review. I did not like it, but I have not watched it since 2014. So it's been almost 10 years since I've seen it. So I'm a different person now. Maybe I'll like it better. I don't know.
I'm a sucker for Dracula and vampires.
I love vampires.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
It's funny because I'm rewatching the Universal Monsters and I put Dracula last because I want to see him last. But anyway, with that said, you guys want to follow us in our social media account? Please follow Nate over on Instagram at Netflix Reviews. Check out the podcast with him and his friends called Netflix Movie Reviews. Anything Action Movie Guys, head over to Instagram at Action Movie Guys Podcast or head over to our official website at www.geeksandflix.com for all Action Movie Guys podcast episodes archived very well for you guys there. Nate's videos for all his 2023 movie reviews that he comes out of the theater, or his out of the theater reviews there. Plus the merch store will be coming out soon. Other than that, he is your host,
Nate from Netflix Reviews.
I'm his co-host, Alex Figueroa. Be awesome to each other and geek out.